What is going on, everyone? This is skycedi.
I'm Becky.
And we are here to talk about work culture in Korea. The reason why we want to talk about this is because us being from the States, work culture here is so much different than in the States, generally speaking. So Becky and I both have experience working for a Korean company, and we thought it'd be interesting to let you guys know some of the differences in our experiences working for a Korean company. Now, we also know that a lot of you guys out there are interested in coming to Korea, not only to teach English, because that's not the only thing that foreigners can do here nowadays, but some of you guys are interested in actually getting different jobs and positions here in Korea. This video is not gonna be about how to do that, but this video is gonna be more so about just the experiences that we've had working for a Korean company as an expat, and more specifically as a half Korean, because there are some nuances with that too.
I have worked in a whole lot of different places. I have also done the English teaching jobs in Hagwon, which was bad. I've also worked in like admin position where I was working as an agent. I was working as a model agent. I worked on the admin side, calling people and trying to get models for shoots and stuff. And then I've also, of course, worked as a model. So all of this industry, I worked in a very big company within that industry.
So you're not gonna name
no,
drop?
No, I'm not gonna say
It's a big agency though.
Sure. It's not, it's tiny.
Okay.
So I worked at a big agency here in Korea, not only as a model, but also working on the office side. So I got to experience what big entertainment industry, agency, company, Korean life is like. I'm trying to be careful here.
I know.
Yeah, I'm being really cautious. Actually, when I talk about it, I look over my shoulder, like, are they there watching?
I guess you'll probably go into why you're like, oh.
Yeah. One, Korea's slander laws are extremely tight, so being cautious. So let's just call it the agency.
Okay, so we already know her story is gonna be on the negative
I was doing
side.
all this build up for nothing. It was great.
So as for me, I actually came here as an English teacher through the EPIC program. So my first year here was me teaching English in Daejeon, but then after a year, I moved to Seoul, and I actually was like freelancing for a couple of months, but I got a job offer with a Korean company here in Seoul, and I took that position and I worked there for a little under a year. So I have experience with a Korean company and got to get a taste of what Korean company culture is like, because that is a thing here. My experience was overall quite positive, and yeah, it was like a marketing company, but they own several different cosmetic brands, and they brought me on as the videographer and photographer in-house, and I also got a chance to work with like different brands and do photography work for them, and also make videos. Very interesting experience. And the way my company was, it was a good mix of like Korean but also Western, so we'll get into that.
So my company, the setup, let's break down the formation of it. It was, big, a very big company. And so of course there were a lot of employees, and you had the head of each kind of division, the main CEOs, the 대표s, and then beneath them you had Isa, and then beneath that you had 상무, and then beneath that you had PD. I was PD, so I wasn't like the lowest of the low, but I was kind of down on the food chain. And so of course I had less say in that regard, for one. Also, I was a model, and so I was new, and so I was really low on the pecking order. So this hierarchy structure was very apparent. You knew exactly who had what role, where in the building they were located, and who you went to for certain things. You didn't cross the line with this person. With other people, you don't talk to them unless. And I was berated many times, actually, mostly by one person. But if I sent her a Kakao Talk, instead of going to her office directly and telling her face to face if I needed something, because I was so low on the order, she would demand that I came to her personally and tell her to her face.
Dang.
She was too big for me to just send her a Kakao message. Because of my position, I kind of didn't have much say in things. So to eat lunch, you had to eat with your group, whether I liked it or not. And we always ate whatever whoever was the oldest there would eat. And if I had a different errand I wanted to run, or I wanted to make a call with somebody, it was so awkward every time for me to say like, oh, I'm sorry, I have something to do. And I felt obligated to apologize profusely to have my own lunch hour. So that was one thing. Also, the Korean office that I was working in was so Korean. We had very few people who spoke English. In fact, I think on my team, we were the only ones who, maybe 3 people total, including myself. Most people didn't speak English. And also, there were no other non-Koreans. There were some Kyopo, right? Maybe there were like 2 Kyopos who worked in a different division. But mixed Koreans? No, definitely no. I was the only one, and I think the only one who was represented there. So already you could see this kind of separation. And if I did something wrong, oftentimes, depending on who was talking to me, they would bring up that fact. Like, oh, well, Becky PD, she's not Korean, so she doesn't understand. Becky PD, like, oh, she couldn't get this anyway. Like, this is how we do it in Korea. This is how Korean companies work. This was kind of the feedback I would get a lot of times. So that was very obvious and apparent in the company where I worked.
Yeah, so my experience with my company was probably a lot more positive than Becky's.
Which is
I would
good.
have to say.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I had a very awesome boss, and the CEO of the company, which is another thing, like it was a woman, and she really was a very like big powerhouse in the industry. A lot of people knew her. She was very cool. She was very intense, a visionary, very creative. I worked with that sort of personality as the head, and so being a Korean company, there were still positions and there was a hierarchy there with her being the head, and then you had your bujangs, or your department heads, and then you trickle down from there. And I was 대리님, which means I was a 대리, which means I guess you could translate that to being like a manager of some, not a manager, but like
what would you say Teddy is?
I don't know.
I feel like Teddy is kind of manager.
It is a manager, but it's not like lower level manager. It's kind of like
director.
Not quite direct. See, these positions are crazy in the Korean companies because like there is a position for everything, and it's very important. But anyways, I was the only photographer on the team, but we had like a team of designers and we had a marketing person. So for me, it was pretty cool because when I first came on, it was a very team-centered type of atmosphere. It was a little different in that, at least with our team, initially we were all like pretty much going out to lunch, but I think like slowly over time people started like taking individual lunches, which isn't super common, I think.
Yeah, I feel like people just eat lunch always together.
Right. So so I guess towards the latter end of my stay there, I would just take my own lunch because I wanted to edit and do other work. It was quite positive. The people were pretty friendly there, but the one thing that I feel like was very different to the traditional Korean company structure is they gave you a little bit more freedom at that company. Like it was more of a trust system, and I didn't have to clock in. I just had to make sure that I'd be there on time.
On time. Loosely on time.
And do my work and accomplish what I needed to do. Now, mind you, most of the time we were pretty busy. We had projects and things to finish up. So we would sometimes stay late. But that was my experience. It was a little bit more positive, whereas I hear stories of company workers like Koreans here who, yes, they have their 9 to 5, or they have their set hours, but sometimes they'll have to come in a little early, but oftentimes they'll stay late. Korea actually recently did change their laws in terms of the work week, right? Some of the bigger companies are limiting the work hour, the max amount, to I believe 52 hours a week.
I think it's 52 hours a week, and if you go over that, either they say like you can't work more than that, or they give you overpay.
If they go over 52 hours, then that company can be fined, or there might be other punishments. So I mean, I think that's a good thing because like
it is a good
Korea
thing.
Work culture is pretty like intense. Now looking back, I personally like the Western style a little bit more. It suits me. Like when I first joined the company and started like getting used to working for the company, I realized that I guess I wasn't as Korean as I thought I was in my cultural understanding, in my experience of it, because you always hear about Korean work culture, but until you experience it, you're like, wow, that was
Yeah.
pretty crazy. Like, I thought I could handle it better than, like, mentally,
Right,
better
right.
than I probably did. And
Right.
you know my struggles. But overall, I got really lucky because, again, it wasn't like a normal company.
Why do we suffer like that in the Korean company? Loyalty. Loyalty in a sense of, I have to make it here to survive. Extreme competition.
Right.
I forgot to mention that. Everyone in my company slaved away like I did. Why? Because our CEO would always embrace us, and she'd buy us dinners and she would say, this company is your family. You need to treat us like family. This sense of loyalty and obligation. And
Right.
because nobody was making money, we would work extra hard, hoping that we would get sungjin, promoted, so that we wouldn't have to suffer like that. This is why so many people work so hard.
And so if anybody's actually interested in working for a Korean company, that is something that
Do
you're
your
gonna have to
research.
consider. And
Learn Korean.
Yeah, you're gonna have to learn Korean. You know, I was able to use some English in my office, but most of my conversation had to be in Korean, except with my immediate 팀장님 or my team member, my team boss.
It will help you to understand the culture and the environment and how these nuances, who to react to, who to ask this favor of. It's very high context culture.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you guys got to consider that. You know, if that is something that you're willing to work towards and work for, just getting through learning the Korean and the business Korean, and also respecting the hierarchy structure, because we're not here to slam the structure. I mean, yeah, there are things that we disagree with. So do a lot of Koreans here. But it is a reality, and that's something that you have to deal with when working with a Korean company. Like, you're not gonna come in with this Western mindset and say, I'm gonna do what I want. It does not work.
People might resent you.
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely.
Yeah, and you
Definitely.
don't want that. Like, whatever the reason being, you don't want any negativity between you and your coworker if you can help it. That would just make life so much smoother for everyone.
Being half Korean in Korea and working for a Korean company on top of being a foreigner, it's been interesting for me because it showed me how, one, work culture is so important to a person's life, in a sense of, this is a big part of your life and this is a big part of your future career. And for me, it showed me, wow, I thought I was way more Korean. I thought I had way more understanding of Korea in terms of like the hierarchy and relationships, but I learned a lot, and I learned that I didn't know as much as I knew, or as much as I learned. So for me, I, in many ways, felt like, oh man, I've had like moments where I was like, man, I'm not as Korean as I want to be here in this context. I can't speak the same business lingo. I can't relate to people the same, and I still have more of a like Western style mindset, and I want to have more autonomy in my work. Like, I don't want micromanagement. I could do, you know, what I do just fine. So I learned that about me, that I didn't adapt as good as I thought I would, though I adapted okay.
I never felt so separate than I did working in that company. I was made fun of for not being able to speak Korean well. In some circumstances, I distinctly remember a coworker, she would repeat what I said in the way I said it and then laugh and then ask me again. So that it was pointed out to me repeatedly. I did have, and this wasn't everyone in the company, mind you, but there were, you know. And then I also had some people who were very resentful. My CEO really liked me, but she was so far away because it was such a big company. It was not like she could rescue me every time. And so there were some people who would resent the fact that, oh, CEO likes you because you're half, you know, CEO likes you because you're not like a Korean. And so it was kind of like, great, but then they resented that fact. But what could I do about that? Nothing, you know. And then on the other hand, I couldn't really pull out that foreigner card. You know, we would have sometimes people who would visit us who were like totally foreigner. I remember we had this one Italian guy who came. He could do whatever he wanted.
Right.
Anything he wanted. And they would just, you know, oh, okay, of course, do what you like. But when I came into the picture, I couldn't pull that card out quite, you know?
Right.
It was like they would concede my failings to being not Korean. But when I wanted to be independent and I was like, I'm gonna eat this today, and like, sorry, I'm not gonna do that, or I have to check out at the right time, I'm supposed to check out, I didn't have that freedom. So yeah, I feel that there were some subtleties, and I started to notice them a bit more.
Okay, well, that was our experience as half Koreans working for Korean companies, and as you can see, our experience varied.
That's right.
You know, we have good experiences, but also bad experiences. So if you're someone who is interested in coming to Korea to work for a Korean company, do your own research, and everyone's experience is going to be different. If you guys have any questions about anything that we said or any experience that you had working for a Korean company, please do leave in the comments below, and let's have a conversation about it. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow us on social media, and we'll see you in the next video.
See ya.
And remember to always seize the day.
Peace.